All right, good morning and welcome to our Bible prophecy update. On Sunday mornings, we have two services, the first of which is our weekly Bible prophecy update. And then second service is the sermon. It's a verse-by-verse study through the Word of God. We're currently in the book of Hebrews, and today we're going to answer from the text, chapter 11, verses 1 through 3, the question of, do I really have faith? And the way we're going to answer that question is by first explaining what faith is, what faith does, and what faith has in terms of its application to our lives. And that will be live streamed at 11:15 a.m. Hawaii time. We would encourage you to join with us at that time. But we need to get right to it. Got a lot to get to today. So for today's update, once again, I'm going to borrow from yet another well-known idiom. This time, it's that of one not seeing the forest for the trees. You've heard this one. You've used this one. Not seeing the forest for the trees means that one cannot see the big picture of the forest because they're too focused on what's right in front of them, namely the tree. If you'll kindly allow me to, I'd like to talk with you about this idiom. And I want to do so from a prophetic perspective related to everything that is happening today. I want to start by defining the tree. The tree is that which we are faced with and focused on, specifically the intensifying mandates and increasing restrictions. As for the forest, or if you prefer big picture, that can be defined as that which is not yet clearly in focus by virtue of its unseen, vast expanse just over the horizon. In other words, the tree represents what we see in the here and now, whereas the forest represents what we don't see beyond and after. Now we have a problem, and that problem is that we get so caught up in the tree that's in front of us, in the here and now, and in so doing, we lose perspective and are really blinded to the entirety of the forest ahead. There is a solution to this problem, and the solution is one needs to know about the big picture of the forest ahead, because it can have a profound impact on how we see the tree of here and now. It's when we step back from that tree that we're able to see what's on the horizon, and when we do that, it can change everything. I am keenly aware that I run the risk of coming off as overly dramatic when I say this, but I say it nonetheless. This is a matter of life and death. And by life and death, I'm speaking of eternity, such that knowing what's ahead can mean the difference between heaven or hell. That's what's at stake here. And the reason is there are two big pictures. And these two big pictures are predicated upon the person of Jesus Christ and whether or not one is saved or not. The big picture for the saved is the imminent rapture of the church. And the big picture for those not saved is 7 years of tribulation. Actually, we have this evil and horrific picture of the 7 years of tribulation painted on the canvas of the book of Revelation, specifically chapters 6 through 19, which are all about this period known as the 7 years of tribulation, aka the time of Jacob's trouble, Daniel's 70th week. That one period of time, 7 years in length, and it's called the 7-year tribulation. And it's foretold in the book of Revelation. However, prior to this 7-year tribulation, we're already beginning to see, if we step back from the tree, what's on the horizon, what's coming, not too far off, very close in fact. And sadly, what we're beginning to see is a global genocide. A global genocide. Isn't that perky? For those interested, we did an update 7 months ago. Actually, almost to the day, on February 7th, titled, "The 10 Stages of Genocide." Now, at the time, these 10 stages were eerily similar to what was happening then, back in February. However, today, it's not eerily similar. It's exactly what's happening now in September. Particularly stages 7, 8, and 9, which are preparation, persecution, and extermination of the population by way of a strong deception. Deception. This is 2 Thessalonians chapter 2. Let me read beginning in verse 9. The Apostle Paul, writing to the church in Thessalonica by the Holy Spirit, says, verse 9, "The coming of the lawless one is by the activity of Satan with all power and false signs and wonders and with all wicked deception for those who are perishing." And here's why. It's because they refused to love the truth and so be saved. Therefore, God sends them a strong delusion so that they may believe what is false, the lie, in order that all may be condemned who did not believe the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. This prophecy in 2 Thessalonians comports with prophecies in Revelation concerning this wicked deception and strong delusion. Would you agree that this wicked deception and strong delusion seems to already be here in real time? And if that weren't bad enough, it's on a global scale. And it's the likes of which the world has never seen before, nor will ever see again. And here's how I get there. The deception we're already seeing now is an indication of just how close we are to the 7-year tribulation, which is the last 7 years of human history as we know it. Enter Revelation chapter 13. In Revelation 13, we have the image of the beast, the worship of the beast, and last but not least, the mark of the beast. Now, it should be noted that the prophecy in Revelation 13 presupposes that the technology exists to mark, verify, and track the entire population. Right? So much so that those who aren't digitally identified and verified, that's very important. Hang on to verified. We're going to need that in a moment. Those who aren't digitally identified and verified as having received this mark upon their hands or foreheads are put into concentration camps / quarantine centers and or subsequently put to death. From what we're told in the book of Revelation, those who refuse are those who were not deceived, whereas those who did not refuse were those who were deceived. This is Revelation 13:14. Listen. Because of the signs it was given power to perform on behalf of the first beast, it deceived the inhabitants of the earth. Stop right there. Did you catch that? The entire earth, the whole world, the entire globe, the inhabitants of the earth, all of them were deceived. And it ordered them to set up an image in honor of the beast who was wounded by the sword and yet lived. Now, fast forward to Revelation chapter 19. We see it again in a different context, because now we're at the end of the 7-year tribulation. And by the way, let me hasten to say that in chapters 6 through 19 of Revelation, these chapters that deal with the 7-year tribulation, you will not find the word church mentioned even one time. Why? Why is the word church not mentioned in chapters 6 through 19 of Revelation dealing with the 7-year tribulation? Because, wait for it, the church is not in the tribulation. If the church was in the tribulation, yeah, then you could do that. I'll do that. I won't do it in front of the mic. If the church were in the tribulation, wouldn't it stand to reason that you would find the word church mentioned in the chapters that describe in horrific detail what happens during the 7-year tribulation? I'm sorry, I'm yelling. One more thing, by the way. Chapters 1 through 3, the church is mentioned there 19 times. Chapter 4, verse 1, no mention. Oh, interesting, chapter 4, Revelation, verse 1. John is told to come up hither at the sound of the trumpet, and he's taken up to heaven, and he's shown from heaven being caught up hither. You know what that is, right? Do I need to tell you? It's the rapture. And Jesus says, come up here so I can show you what is going to happen after these things. Metatauta in the Greek. After what things? Oh, after the events of chapters 1 through 3. What are the events of chapters 1 through 3? Well, chapter 1 is the eyewitness account of Jesus Christ crucified, buried, resurrected, and glorified, seated at the right hand of the Father. Past. Chapters 2 and 3, present. You know where we're living at right now in terms of Revelation chronologically? We're like at the very end. I mean the gnat's eyebrow, and yes, gnats have eyebrows, of the very end of Revelation chapter 3. And that last drop is about to drip, and that trumpet is about to sound. And we are on the cusp of Revelation 4:1, which is the rapture of the church. And then once John is taken up hither, caught up, raptured up, he's shown what's going to happen after the events of the church age, which is present, chapters 2 and 3. 7 letters to 7 churches. That's the church age. And then after the events of chapters 2 and 3, the church is caught up, taken up, and then everything that happens after that is yet future. In fact, from chapter 4, verse 1 of Revelation, all the way through to chapter 22 of Revelation are all yet future. And chapters 6 through 19 deal very specifically and explicitly with that period of time known as the 7-year tribulation. Now, when you fast forward to Revelation 19, verse 20, this is what we read. Then the beast was captured, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence, by which, listen very carefully, he deceived those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. These two were cast alive into the lake of fire burning with brimstone. Now we have a question that I would like to try and answer. The question is, how can people be so deceived, having believed that they should receive this mark? Is that a fair question? Answer: they really must not have seen that they really had any choice by virtue of the fact that they can't earn money and buy food without it. Thus, they're deceived and believe that if they have it, receive it, their lives can get back to normal. Not knowing that they're damned forever. Revelation 14, verses 9 through 11. Then a third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if anyone worships the beast and his image, and receives his mark on his forehead or on his hand, he himself shall also drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out full strength into the cup of his indignation. He shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels and in the presence of the Lamb. And the smoke of their torment ascends forever and ever. And they have no rest day or night, who worship the beast and his image, and whoever receives the mark of his name. Thankfully, this has not happened yet, because we're not in the tribulation yet. However, it's starting to happen now. Prior to the tribulation, which is an indication of how close we are to the tribulation. I want to expound on this, but in order to do that, we'll go ahead at this time and end the live stream on YouTube and Facebook and redirect you to jdfarag.org for the remainder of the uncensored update.